Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd love to know what you think. Every comment helps me make the next story better. Subscribe to stay tuned. I was standing in the kitchen on a Saturday morning, lawnmower keys in my hand, when my wife Amanda came home from yoga and told me everything I'd been doing for the past 6 years was toxic masculinity and I needed to stop immediately. It was one of those perfect Phoenix mornings before the heat really kicks in. The kind where you can still get yard work done without feeling like you're melting. I'd been about to head out and mow the lawn, then fix that bathroom faucet that had been dripping for a week and driving Amanda crazy every time she heard it. And maybe check the AC unit to make sure it was ready before summer really hit. And we were dealing with 115-degree days where a broken air conditioner isn't just uncomfortable, but genuinely dangerous. But I'd stopped to ask her first. Asked if maybe she wanted to spend the day together instead. Maybe we could go to breakfast somewhere, or drive up to Sedona for the day, or just hang out at home without me disappearing into yard work and house projects. Be considerate about my time. Be present. Be the emotionally available partner she'd been saying she wanted more of lately. My yoga instructor says toxic masculinity is making everything about you and your need to feel needed, she said. Her arms were crossed, and she had that look on her face. The one that said she'd been thinking about this, discussing it with someone else, and had come to conclusions without me. I blinked. What? All this fixing things, mowing the lawn, acting like the protector. It's toxic masculinity. You're performing traditional gender roles to make me dependent on you. It's actually a control tactic. I stood there, keys digging into my palm, trying to understand. I thought I was being helpful. We'd been married for 6 years, owned our house in the Arcadia neighborhood for 4. Every Saturday morning, I maintained our yard and fixed whatever needed fixing. That's what you do when you own a home. That's partnership. Maybe if you stop trying to be the big, strong man all the time, we could have an equal partnership, she said. Then she walked right past me toward the bathroom, conversation apparently over. I wanted to argue. I wanted to ask what she meant. But I couldn't find the words. I was too confused, too blindsided. Taking care of our home was a control tactic? Being reliable was toxic? I put the keys down, walked out to the garage, and sat in my truck. Just sat there, staring at nothing, trying to figure out when being helpful became something wrong. That evening, I sat on the back patio looking at the grass I hadn't mowed. It was already getting long, starting to look shaggy, and I could imagine what the neighbors were thinking, what the HOA would say when they drove by. And I started thinking about everything I did, everything that apparently made me toxic. Everything that was supposedly about control instead of just being a decent partner who pulled his weight. The lawn. I mowed it every single Saturday morning for 6 years. Rain or shine. Even when I was tired. Even when I had other things I wanted to do. I edged it, trimmed around all the trees and bushes, made sure it looked good so the HOA wouldn't fine us, and so we wouldn't be those neighbors who let their property turn into an eyesore. I took pride in it, honestly. In keeping our little piece of the Arcadia neighborhood looking nice. Home repairs. God, where do I even start? I'd fixed our garbage disposal at least 3 times when it jammed or broke. Patched drywall holes every time Amanda wanted to rearrange where pictures hung or when we accidentally put holes in walls moving furniture. Replaced door hinges that squeaked in the middle of the night and drove her crazy. Installed a ceiling fan in our bedroom because she was always too hot at night. Repaired sections of our fence after that massive monsoon storm last August that tore through half the neighborhood and left everyone's yards looking like a disaster zone. Vehicle maintenance. I changed the oil in both our cars every 3,000 miles like clockwork. Rotated tires twice a year. Checked tire pressure. Topped off fluids. Kept detailed maintenance records. Made sure everything ran reliably so neither of us would break down on the side of the road in the middle of summer when the heat can literally kill you if you're stuck outside too long. Security. After that break-in happened just 2 streets over, right in the middle of the afternoon while the neighbors were at work, Amanda couldn't sleep for weeks. She kept hearing every sound outside, kept checking the locks obsessively, sometimes 3 or 4 times before bed, sometimes getting up in the middle of the night to check them again. Her anxiety was eating her alive. So I researched security systems for weeks. Read reviews. Compared features. Compared prices. Debated wired versus wireless. Spent $800 I'd saved from working overtime. Money I'd originally been planning to use for something else. And then I stayed up late running cables through our attic in 100-degree heat, crawling through insulation and dust, configuring the DVR, setting up motion detection zones, programming sensitivity levels, testing every angle to make sure everything worked perfectly. I gave her an app on her phone so she could check the cameras from anywhere and see in real time that everything was secure. And finally she could sleep again without jumping at every creak in the house. Problem solving. Every time the insurance company tried to jerk us around, I handled it. Every time the cable bill mysteriously doubled and customer service gave us the runaround, I spent my lunch break on hold figuring it out. Every time contractors gave us quotes that seemed inflated, I researched average costs and negotiated. I dealt with bureaucracy and incompetence and being transferred 6 times to 6 different departments so she wouldn't have to waste her time dealing with it. Physical stuff. Every single time Amanda wanted to rearrange furniture, which happened at least once a season because she liked changing things up, I moved everything. Couch, entertainment center, bookcases, heavy dressers. Didn't matter. I moved it all. Every time we went grocery shopping, I carried all the heavy bags. Why should she strain her back when I could handle it? Every time something needed lifting or reaching or moving or required any kind of physical strength, I just did it without thinking twice because it needed doing and I could do it. And sitting there on that patio, I realized something that hit me harder than her words. She'd never thanked me. Not once in 6 years. It was all just expected. Of course Grant will handle it. Of course Grant will fix it. That's just what Grant does. That night, after Amanda went to bed, I looked up toxic masculinity on my phone. I wanted to understand what I was being accused of. What I found was stuff about aggression, dominance, emotional suppression used as a weapon, disrespecting women, treating them as inferior. I'd never done any of that. Never. I just fixed things, maintained things, because I knew how, because it needed doing. The irony was almost funny. She called my helpfulness toxic, but what she really meant was she'd taken it so completely for granted that she couldn't even see it anymore. It had become invisible, like electricity. You only notice when it stops. And that's when I got an idea. What would zero masculinity look like? Not toxic masculinity, just the complete absence of those traditionally masculine contributions. If doing these things made me toxic, then not doing them should make me perfect, right? I'd show her exactly what she asked for. I wouldn't be angry, wouldn't argue, wouldn't explain. I'd just stop doing everything she'd labeled as toxic, and let her experience the equal partnership she claimed to want. I thought about our first monsoon season in this house. That massive storm, palm fronds everywhere, fence damaged. I'd spent the entire next day clearing, repairing, making everything safe. Amanda brought me lemonade. Said, "What would I do without you?" I'd felt needed, valued. Now those same actions were called controlling. I thought about last summer when the AC died. 115 degrees outside. Amanda panicking about what an emergency repair would cost. I spent hours diagnosing it. Drove to 3 stores for parts. Fixed it by 9 that night. Amanda didn't thank me. Just complained about how hot it had been. I thought about the security cameras. Amanda scared after the break-in, unable to sleep. So I researched systems. Spent money I'd saved. Installed everything myself. Gave her peace of mind. She never acknowledged it. Just absorbed it into normal life and moved on. The decision felt calm. Clear. I knew exactly what I was going to do. Monday morning, Amanda mentioned the faucet. Still leaking. "You should probably call a plumber," I said. She looked confused. "What? You said you'd fix it." I don't want to engage in toxic masculinity. I think performing traditional gender roles creates unhealthy power dynamics. I left for work before she could respond. Tuesday evening, the garbage disposal jammed. The kitchen sink filled with dirty water and food waste. Amanda called me from downstairs. "Can you look at the disposal? I'm not comfortable performing traditional gender roles. Maybe YouTube has a tutorial you could watch." "You're being ridiculous. I'm being supportive of your personal development. This is what equal partnership looks like." She hung up on me. The disposal stayed broken. She started using the other sink. Saturday morning came. The lawn was visibly overgrown now, getting close to HOA violation territory. Amanda found me reading on the patio. "Aren't you going to mow?" Lawn care is rooted in toxic masculine territoriality. I'm working on myself, but it needs to be done. There was an edge in her voice. "So do it. Or hire someone. Equal partnership means equal responsibility, right?" She stared at me like I was a stranger. then turned and went back inside. I kept reading while the grass grew taller. Throughout that first week, I stayed completely pleasant. I smiled. I was conversational. I wasn't angry or cold or giving her the silent treatment. I was just completely, utterly unavailable for any of the tasks she'd suddenly labeled as toxic masculine performance. She asked me to check the doors and windows before bed like I'd done every single night for 6 years. I said self-reliance is really empowering. You should trust your own ability to secure our home. I said it with a smile. She struggled coming in from grocery shopping with bags so heavy she had to make 3 trips, sweating in the heat. I watched from my spot on the couch reading a book, suggested pleasantly that she could take multiple trips like she was doing, or maybe buy less at once, or consider having groceries delivered. Whatever worked best for her autonomy. She heard a strange scratching noise in the attic one night, got nervous, came to find me, asked if I'd check it out, make sure it wasn't rats or something worse. I said it's probably nothing serious, but if she was genuinely concerned, she should probably call pest control or someone who specifically handles that sort of thing. I wouldn't want to impose my need to be the protector on her. She wanted to rearrange the living room furniture again, one of her periodic redecorating impulses. Asked me to help move the couch in the entertainment center. I told her there's a certain beauty in accepting spaces as they are, in not constantly needing to change things. Maybe she should sit with the current arrangement for a while and see if she grows to appreciate it from a different perspective. Every single response was calm, reasonable, supportive in a therapeutic kind of way, and absolutely, completely unhelpful. By Monday of week 2, the HOA violation notice appeared. Bright yellow paper on our front door. We'll get fined, Amanda said, near panic. You should handle that. I don't want to impose my toxic need to fix problems. This isn't funny. I'm not laughing. I'm growing as a person. Isn't that what you wanted? Wednesday evening, the AC started making a grinding noise. The house temperature started climbing. It was 95 outside, getting uncomfortable fast. Something's wrong with the AC, Amanda said. Probably. You should call someone. Can't you just look at it? Desperation was creeping into her voice. I think my need to solve problems comes from an unhealthy place. I'm working through that. By bedtime, the house had hit 82 degrees. Amanda couldn't sleep, tossed and turned, complained about the heat. I slept fine. I'd grown up without air conditioning. Friday night, her car started making a horrible grinding noise when she braked. Sounds like brake pads. You'll want to get that checked soon. Can you look at it? I don't feel comfortable maintaining your vehicle. It implies ownership over your autonomy. What is wrong with you? I'm examining my toxic patterns. Thank you for pointing them out. Throughout week 2, the consequences piled up. Garbage disposal still broken. Kitchen starting to smell. Bathroom faucet leak getting worse, leaving water spots on the counter. Lawn grass nearly 8 inches tall. Neighbors definitely noticing. AC working, but inefficiently. Electricity bill would be astronomical. Amanda's brakes grinding louder every day. And I stayed calm, pleasant, and completely unavailable. Amanda tried different approaches throughout week 2, trying to figure out how to reach me, how to get me to go back to normal without having to admit she'd been wrong. Monday morning of week 2, she brought me coffee in bed. Made it just how I like it. Suggested we watch that movie we'd been talking about seeing, have a date night at home like we used to. Being nicer, softer, trying to reconnect through affection and quality time. I agreed to the movie, sat with her on the couch, held her hand. But when she mentioned the disposal was still broken or asked if I'd noticed the lawn was getting citations level long, I just smiled and redirected the conversation. I could see the confusion growing on her face. This version of me who seemed perfectly fine, who wasn't angry or giving her the cold shoulder, but who was somehow completely absent from anything practical. Like I was there, but not really there. Thursday, she switched to criticism. Tried a different angle. You're being passive-aggressive, she said. This whole thing is just you being petty. I'm being authentic to your request, I replied calmly. I'm working on my toxic patterns. What specifically did you mean when you said I needed to stop performing traditional gender roles? She couldn't articulate it clearly. Just stammered about partnership and equality in modern relationships and something she'd heard on a podcast. But she couldn't connect any of it to anything specific I'd actually done wrong. Couldn't point to a single instance where I'd been controlling or harmful or limiting her in any real way. Over that weekend, she tried handling some tasks herself. Actually tried. And I'll admit, I felt something almost like respect watching her make the attempt. She tried to start the lawnmower, pulled it out of the garage, read the manual, watched 2 different YouTube videos on her phone, pulled the starter cord probably 15 times. But she couldn't figure out the choke procedure. The engine flooded, wouldn't turn over. After 20 minutes in the climbing heat, sweat dripping down her face, she gave up, pushed it back into the garage, and went inside without looking at me. She tried to fix the garbage disposal, actually watched a full tutorial video, got under the sink with my tools, got her hands dirty. I thought for a second she might actually figure it out. But then she scraped her hand on one of the blades. Not seriously, just enough to draw blood and scare her. She came out from under the sink cursing, running her hand under water, and I saw tears of frustration in her eyes. She tried to just ignore the AC issue for a while, slept on the living room couch where it was marginally cooler, brought out every fan we owned, pointed them all at herself. But Phoenix summer doesn't care about fans. The heat is relentless, invasive, inescapable. I could see the exhaustion building on her face, the dark circles under her eyes from poor sleep, the irritability from fighting a losing battle against temperature. I watched it all happen, observed like a scientist watching an experiment, said nothing, offered nothing, and saw the frustration and realization building on her face day by day. The slow, dawning awareness that maybe, just maybe, she'd taken something significant for granted, something she didn't know how to replace. Week 3 started. Amanda was different now, quieter, more withdrawn. She came home from yoga on Tuesday evening, and I could tell immediately she'd been crying. Her eyes were red, her face blotchy. She sat down heavily at the kitchen table. We sat in silence for what felt like forever. I talked to my instructor today, she finally said. Her voice was small. I waited. I told her what's been happening. The house falling apart. Everything breaking. You're not helping with anything. And what did she say? Amanda's voice broke. She asked, where did my husband go? Like, the man I married. Where did he go? I'm right here. I'm just not being toxic anymore. That's not what I meant. The tears started now. I never meant this. What did you mean? I don't know. She was struggling. The class talks about partnership and equality, and I thought maybe you were doing too much. Taking everything on like I couldn't handle things myself. Did you ever actually feel controlled by me? She hesitated. No. But, did you ever feel unsafe with me? Of course not. Did I ever tell you what to do? Who to see? What to wear? How to live your life? No, she admitted quietly. Then what exactly was toxic? I kept my voice level. I mowed the lawn for 6 years. Not because I thought you couldn't, but because it needed doing and I knew how. I fixed things because I had the knowledge and you didn't have to worry. I checked the doors because I was up later and it gave you peace of mind. I maintained the cars because I learned from my dad and wanted you safe. None of that was control. It was partnership. Doing what I could so you could focus on what you do. But you took it all for granted. Then decided it was toxic when someone who doesn't live here told you it was. Amanda was crying openly now. Your instructor doesn't see the water bill when the faucet leaks for 3 weeks. She doesn't smell the garbage disposal. She doesn't sleep in 85-degree heat. She doesn't risk brake failure on the freeway. She gave you an ideology, and you applied it to a reality she knows nothing about. I just wanted us to be equal, Amanda said through tears. We were equal. You just couldn't see it because you only counted certain kinds of work. You never thanked me for mowing the lawn, but you'd notice immediately if I didn't. You never acknowledged when I fixed something, but you'd be upset if it stayed broken. You wanted equality, but only in the visible, emotional labor you valued. The practical stuff? That was just expected. I stood up, walked to the window, looked at our disaster of a lawn, at the violation notice still taped to our door. So I gave you what you asked for. 0 masculine contributions. No lawn care. No repairs. No protection. No problems solved. This is the equal partnership you wanted. How's it working out? I hate it, she sobbed. Everything's falling apart. I can't. I don't know how to do these things. You could learn. Or you could hire people. But that would cost about $3,000 a month. Lawn service, handyman, mechanic, security monitoring, general maintenance. Or what? She looked up. Or you could recognize that what I was doing wasn't toxic. It was partnership. And you could stop letting someone who doesn't know us define what we are. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean. I never wanted this. But you said it. And you meant it when you said it. That's what I can't forget. I went to the guest room that night. Didn't comfort her. Didn't reassure her. Just closed the door and lay awake thinking about whether sorry was enough. Whether trust could be rebuilt. Whether I even wanted to try. Because she'd only apologized after consequences. After discomfort. After the house fell apart. Not after understanding. Not after recognizing my value. But after suffering the loss of it. The next few days, I moved through the house quietly. Thinking. Weighing options. One evening, I sat in the garage for an hour, just looking at my tools. Another night, I drove to Papago Park. Walked the trails alone, watching the sunset paint Camelback Mountain. I kept asking myself the same questions. Can trust be rebuilt when someone only saw your value in its absence? If she only appreciated what I did when I stopped, what happens when I start again? Amanda was trying. I could see that. She got quotes from plumbers. Nearly passed out at the prices. $350 to fix what would have taken me an hour. She tried again to start the lawn mower. Watched more videos. Still couldn't get it running. Looked up lawn services. $200 per visit. She took her car to the mechanic. $650 for brake pads. Something I could have done in an hour for $80 in parts. She called about AC maintenance. $300 just for someone to look at it. She added it all up in a notebook I saw on the counter. $1,400 in 2 weeks for basic maintenance I'd been handling for free. She stopped going to yoga. I noticed that. The mat stayed in the closet. Tuesday and Thursday mornings, she was home. She texted me one afternoon. I was wrong about everything. I didn't respond right away. That weekend, for weeks after it all started, she asked if we could talk. I agreed. We sat on the back patio. The overgrown lawn stretched out in front of us. A stark contrast to our neighbors' perfect yards. I stopped going to yoga, she said. I noticed. I realized she was telling me what to think. And I let her. I let someone who doesn't know you, doesn't know us, redefine our entire marriage. Why? She thought about it. Maybe because it felt intellectual, sophisticated, like I was growing beyond traditional roles. But all I did was trash something that was working because someone with an ideology told me I should. Do you actually understand what you did wrong? Or are you just sorry things got uncomfortable? Both. At first it was just uncomfortable, just inconvenient. But then I realized, you didn't know me any of this. You did it because you wanted to, because you loved me. And I called it toxic. You did. And the worst part? You didn't even question it. You didn't look at our actual relationship and think, wait, is this true? You just weaponized something someone said against me. I know. And I hate that I did that. We sat in silence, listening to a neighbor's lawn mower running. I'm not saying I was perfect, but I wasn't toxic. And you need to understand the difference between harmful behaviors and just being a partner who contributes in traditionally masculine ways. She nodded. I see that now. More silence. I'll fix the AC, and the faucet, and the disposal, but I'm not doing it for you. She looked confused. Hurt. I'm doing it because I live here too, and I don't want to suffer because you didn't appreciate me. But things are different now. Different how? You're going to learn to maintain the yard. Not all of it, but enough. Enough that when I do mow, you see it as a choice, not an obligation. You're taking your car for maintenance yourself. You're handling the things you took for granted. And when I do something, when I fix something or solve something, you're going to acknowledge it. Not with some big production, but because partnership requires seeing each other. Okay, I can do that. And if I ever hear toxic masculinity directed at me again, for fixing something or maintaining something or protecting something, I'm done. Not angry, just done. Because I won't live with someone who weaponizes therapy speak against basic partnership. That's fair. I don't know if we'll be okay long term. I don't know if I can forget how easily you dismissed 6 years. I don't know if trust comes back from this. But I know one thing. I'm not going back to being invisible. I understand. 2 weeks later, I mowed the lawn on Saturday morning. Amanda watched from the window the whole time. When I came inside, sweaty and covered in grass clippings, she met me at the door with cold water. Thank you, she said. Simple, clear, just those 2 words. But they were the first time she'd said them for this task in 6 years. I nodded. You're welcome. That afternoon, I fixed the AC, changed the filter, cleaned the coils, got it running efficiently. Amanda came out to the garage while I was working, stood there for a minute, then handed me another cold water bottle. She didn't say anything. Didn't need to. It was acknowledgement. That night, lying in the cool house, I thought about the past 2 months. About how easily love can be redefined by outside voices. About how taking someone for granted doesn't feel like taking them for granted. It just feels normal. Until normal disappears. I didn't know if we'd make it. Trust rebuilds slowly. If it rebuilds at all. But I knew something had changed. I wasn't invisible anymore. Whether she saw me or not, I saw myself. I saw my value. I saw my contributions. And I understood they mattered. Whether someone acknowledged them or not. My worth wasn't determined by her appreciation. It was determined by my own understanding of what I brought to partnership. I fixed the disposal the next day. Took me about 40 minutes. Repaired the faucet, another 30 minutes. Checked my car's brake pads while I was at it. Scheduled oil changes for both vehicles. Did it all not out of obligation, or because she'd asked, or because I was trying to prove a point, but because these things genuinely needed doing. Because I knew how to do them. Because maintaining the life we'd built together still mattered to me, even if it had taken everything falling apart for it to start matching to her. Amanda started doing small things too. Baby steps toward understanding what she'd dismissed. She asked me to teach her how to work the lawnmower. Actually asked, not demanded or expected. So one Saturday morning, I showed her. The choke. The primer bulb. How many times to pump it. The technique for pulling the starter cord. Not just yanking it, but pulling smooth and firm. How to engage the self-propel feature. How to overlap your rows so you don't miss spots. One afternoon the following week, while I was working in my office, I heard the mower start. Looked out the window and saw Amanda actually mowing a section of the backyard. The lines weren't straight. More like waves, honestly. And she missed a few patches completely, left islands of tall grass in a sea of cut lawn. But she was doing it. Sweating in the heat. Pushing that mower back and forth. Actually trying. When I came outside and saw her, she stopped. Pushed the hair off her forehead. Looked at me with this expression that was half proud and half nervous. Like a kid showing a parent their homework, waiting to see if I'd criticize or find everything she'd done wrong. Looks good, I said. And I meant it. Really good job. Her smile was genuine. Relieved. Grateful in a way I hadn't seen in years. We're not fixed. Not completely. Not even close, really. The wound of being called toxic for being helpful still aches when I think about it. Still stings when I remember how easily she dismissed 6 years of partnership because someone with a yoga certification and an ideology told her to. Trust doesn't return overnight. It doesn't even return over weeks. It's a slow rebuilding, brick by brick, assuming it returns at all. And I catch myself sometimes wondering if she's just performing appreciation now. If it's genuine, or if it's just fear of loss. If it'll fade when the crisis memory dims and everything feels normal again and she forgets why she started noticing in the first place. But I'm different now. Fundamentally, permanently different in a way that matters. I won't go back to being taken for granted. Won't accept being invisible. Won't stay somewhere where my contributions aren't valued. I can't. I've seen too clearly what happens when you do. I've felt too deeply what it's like to be dismissed for the very things that hold a life together. I've learned something crucial about myself over these past weeks. My worth isn't determined by whether someone else sees it. It's not validated by whether I get thanked or appreciated or acknowledged. It's determined by whether I see it. Whether I understand my own value. Whether I recognize what I bring to any relationship, whether this one or the next. And I do now. Clearly. Completely. Without question or doubt. I see the value in what I bring. The practical skills. The reliability. The willingness to maintain and fix and protect and solve problems. The quiet daily work that keeps a household running, keeps a life functioning, keeps things from falling apart into chaos. If Amanda can see it too, if she can maintain this newfound appreciation beyond the immediate crisis, beyond the discomfort and the lesson learned the hard way, if she can hold on to this awareness when everything's working again and the house is maintained and the lawn is mowed and she's sleeping in a cool bedroom again, then maybe we have something worth rebuilding, worth fighting for, worth the effort it'll take to put back together what broke. If she can't, if this gratitude is just temporary performance born of crisis and fear, if we slip back into old patterns where I'm invisible again and my contributions are expected rather than valued, then at least I know now what I'm capable of. I'm capable of choosing myself, of drawing boundaries, of saying no, of walking away from someone who can't or won't value what I bring to their life. That knowledge, that certainty about my own worth, is valuable. Maybe the most valuable thing I've gained from all of this. The lawn is maintained now. The AC runs efficiently. The faucets don't leak. The disposal works. The cars are reliable. And when I do these things, Amanda notices. Thanks me. Acknowledges the time and effort. It shouldn't have taken a breakdown to get here. But here we are, trying to rebuild something that broke when outside voices convinced her that partnership was control. I hope it's enough. I hope she means it. I hope this isn't just temporary. But whether it is or isn't, I know one thing for certain. I showed her what zero masculinity looks like. What a partnership without practical contribution feels like. What happens when ideology meets reality. And the cost of taking someone for granted. And I'll never let myself be invisible again. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.